Hi guys, in this video we're going to have a look at how to plot straight lines. Okay, so there's a few things to go over here. We're going to start off nice and simple with some examples like I've got on this first sheet here. So this one here, x equals 1. Now all that means is that the straight line goes through the x-axis. So the x-axis is this one here, the horizontal one. And the straight line goes through x equals 1. Okay, so it's just this nice straight line going down like so. Okay, so that one there is x equals 1. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense, because if you look at all the coordinates here, that one there, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, all of the x coordinates are 1. So it makes sense that the straight line there is called x equals 1. And exactly the same thing for the other examples here. So x equals minus 3 is going to go through the x-axis at minus 3, like so. So x equals minus 3 and x equals 5. Well, it's going to go through the x-axis at 5. Again, nice straight line. Like so. Okay. Now this one's a bit more interesting. X equals 0. Well, it goes through the x-axis at 0, which is here. Now it probably won't show up. I'll try and go just slightly off with my red pen, so it's going to go through there, and it's also known as you probably guessed it, the y-axis. Okay, so x equals 0 is exactly the same as the y-axis. Just something to be aware of there. Some people get confused and they go, oh, okay, it's x equals 0, but it's actually the y-axis, therefore it's y equals 0. No, 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 the y-axis is x equals 0, so just be careful about that one. Let's have a look at these ones over here then. So this time I've got y equals 3. So as you might have guessed, it's going to go through the y-axis, which is obviously this one here, at 3. So this time it's a horizontal line going through y is 3. So that one there, y equals 3. Y equals minus 5. You probably guessed it. Through the y-axis at minus 5. Y minus 2. Again, go through the y-axis at minus 2. Simple as that. And y equals 0, as you might have already guessed, it goes through where obviously y equals 0, but just as before, it's actually just the x-axis. So that's what people get confused with. X equals 0 is the y-axis, y equals 0 is the x-axis. So just be a little bit careful when dealing with those ones. So that's some very basic, nice and easy straight lines, but definitely something to be aware of when you're doing, like, say, lines of reflection or something like that. You're definitely going to need to know how to do that. Okay, let's get on to something a bit more juicy. Let's have a look at these ones here. So this is much more likely to come up in a GCSE exam or something like that, where it says, I want you to plot this equation here, y equals 2x minus 3, for the values of x from minus 3 to 3. Okay, so whenever you plot anything, you're generally going to need to know the coordinates of what you need to plot. So it might, or the question in the exam might be nice, and it might give you a table. However, if it doesn't, it's not a problem, just draw yourself a table. Okay, like so. In which case I'm going to have my x coordinates and I'm going to have my y coordinates. So x is going to go from minus 3 to 3, so I'm going to fill that in. So minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. And now I need to work out what my y coordinates are. Now to do that, all I'm going to do is substitute my values of x back into this equation. Now if you're happy with substitution, if you've looked at my substitution video, by all means just crack on with that. However, if you're a little bit unsure, or substitution is maybe a little bit tricky for you, you might want to do this next step, in which case we use the flow chart. So basically, if I'm substituting x in, I start off with x. What do I do to x? First, well, I times by 2, because using BIDMAS I've got to do my multiplication first. So I do x, I times by 2, then I take away 3, and then it equals y. So we can use the flowchart to help us fill in these values. Now, if you're confident with your negative numbers, by all means start at -3. However, I recommend starting at 0 and doing the positives first. It's just easier, and you'll see something in a minute. So if I start off with 0, 0 times 2 is 0. Take away 3 is obviously -3. Start off with x, I'll now do x equals 1. So 1 times 2 is 2. Take away 3, -1. X is 2, put it in. 2 times 2 is 4, take away 3 is 1, and finally 3 times 2 is 6, take away 3 is 3. Now you may have gotten onto it already, but if you haven't, you can see that this is going up in 2. So -3, -1, 1, 3, it's going up in 2s. That's because you times them by 2, or it's 2x there, it's going up in 2s. So this is why I said if you do the 0 and positives first, it then becomes quite easy to do the negatives, because if I'm going up in 2 this way, going that way, I'm going to go down in 2. So without even using the flowchart or substituting in, I know that's going to be -5, that's going to be -7, and that's going to be -9. So the pattern stays the same, going up in 2s all the way. Okay? Once you've got your table of values, like I said, sometimes they give it to you, sometimes they don't. If they don't, just draw it like I did here. We can just plot them. So when x is -3, y is -9. So x is -3 along the corridor and down to -9. You put a little point there. -2, -7. -1, -5. 0, -3. 1, -1. 2, 1. And then 3, 3. Okay, now you get your ruler and it should be a nice straight line. If it isn't, you've made a mistake. Okay, so it should give you a little bit of an indication whether or not you've done it right or not. Okay, so there's the first one there, nice straight line. There you go, I've plotted y equals 2x -3. Let's have a go at this one then. So again, I haven't got a table here, so I'm just going to make one for my x and y values. And again, I'm going from -3 to 3. I've just used this. It could be anything. It could be from -5 to 5. It could be from -2 to 2. It could all be positive. But whatever the values are here, stick them in your table. So again, I'm going to have -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. Now again, all I'm going to do is substitute these values of x into here. If you're unsure about the substitution or you're not very confident at it, just use the flowchart to help you, which is what I'm going to do now. So I've got x. What do I do to x first? I times it by -3. Don't forget that's -3, not just 3. Sorry, I times that by -3. Then what do I do? Then I add my 1, and then I get y. So again, I'm going to ignore the negatives now, because they're a bit tricky, and I'm going to start with 0 and do the positives. So 0 times -3 is 0, plus 1, 1. 1 times -3, well, that's -3, plus 1, -2. 2 times -3 is -6, plus 1, -5. And 3 times -3 is -9, plus 1, -8. So here you can see it's going down in 3s. So if I go the other way, it must go up in 3s. So that'll be 4, add 3, 7, add 3, 10. And you can double check it if you like. -3 times -3. Well, a minus times a minus is a positive. So -3 times -3 would give me 9. Plus 1, obviously 10. So you can check it as well. But again, you can see it's going down in 3s because we're timesing by -3. And of course, here, the -3x tells you it's going to go down in 3s as well. So once you've done that, you can plot your points. So -3, 10. Is all the way at the top there. -2, 7 is there. -1, 4. 0, 1. 1 -2. 2 -5. And 3 -8. So again, get your ruler, double check it's a nice straight line, which it should be. Yes, it is. And then you can just draw your line, and you've plotted that line. No problems. Okay, so this is a very common question in exams, and it does get slightly harder, or can get, I should say, slightly harder, and that's what we're going to have a look at next. Okay, so that's that one. And we could have something that looks a bit like this. So this is probably as hard as it would get for plotting. So again, I'm going from -3 to 3. And again, I haven't got a table, so draw a table. Okay. So -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. There we go. Now in this case, it's not like before. This time I've got x plus y and equals a number. So it's just been rearranged. Now you've got two choices. You can rearrange it so it's y equals something again and then use the flowchart or substitute the values in. Or just use a little bit of common sense. So what I mean by that is, if I put x equals 0 into here, so 0 plus something equals 5. Well, 0 plus 5 must be 5. So y must be 5 when x is 0. If x is 1, 1 plus what gets me 5? Well, it has to be 4. 2 plus what gets me 5? Has to be 3. And 3 plus what must get 5? Well, it must be 2. And just as before, I can spot a pattern. 5, 4, 3, 2. So I'm going down in ones. If I then go the other way, I must be going up. So 6, 7, 8. Just check it. If you've got -3 plus 8, yep, you get 5. So, okay, so a little bit of common sense with that one. Probably makes it a bit easier than having to rearrange it and then use a horrible flowchart or substitution. So a little bit of common sense is quite nice for that one. And again, plot it. So -3, 8. So -3 and then 8, and then -2, 7. -1, 6. 0, 5. 1, 4. 2, 3. And 3, 2. And again, get your ruler, nice straight line. Happy days. Okay. Now this one is quite tricky. So you can rearrange it again to make it y equals something if you wish to. However, this is a little trick, and I included this one precisely for this trick. I'm not going to draw a table for this one. I'm just going to pick two coordinates. And my two coordinates are going to be when x is 0 and when y is 0. Okay? So if x is 0, 2 times 0 is obviously nothing. So I'm not going to have anything there. I'm just going to have -4 times y gets me 8. So what is y going to be to make this work? -4 times something gives me 8. So -4 times -2, because -4 times -2, a negative times a negative, will give me a positive. Okay, so that's one coordinate. When x is 0, y has to be -2. And the other one, if y is 0, so -4 times 0, that'd be 0, so there's nothing there. And I'm left with 2x equals 8. So 2 times something gets me 8. Well, 2 times 4 will get you 8. So I've just found another coordinate. So I have these two coordinates. And because it's going to be a straight line, really and truly, that's all I need. So 0 minus 2 is that one. And then 4, 0 is that one there. Now, this is where you could lose a mark. If you just use the straight line between those two coordinates, like I've just done there, that's going to lose you a mark in the exam, because the question says go from -3 to 3. At the minute, I've only gone from 0 to 3. So I just need to extend this line, like so, to make sure it goes from -3 all the way to 3. This bit doesn't matter, it's just a little bit extra, it's not a problem, but I use that point there, join them up to get a nice straight line. Just make sure it goes in between the values that the question asks you to do. Okay, so just a little trick that you can do with that one. Set x equal to 0, set y equals to 0, and work out the coordinate. Hopefully that helps, guys. Cheers.